Good morning, sunflowers. Obviously, it's afternoon, but I have barely been up long enough to get dressed and cut myself already this morning. I suppose I should have some coffee before I go on talking about how the morning has been. So this week, I don't have anything to show you. I thought I was gonna have a deck, but the post office has seen fit to misplace it, and so I'll be spending the week trying to catch the mail person to double check the mailboxes, as I have a, community mailbox where there's lots of different slots, and sometimes the mail person puts them in the wrong place. So glad to see people hopping in. Blue Crescent Tarot is here, welcome. And, so, I am on my living room sofa again because Pokey has decided that he has to be attached to me this week. I'm not sure what's going on with him. Most likely it's just age. I have noticed that, as my pets reach their average lifespan and begin to deteriorate, they get very clingy. Um, and I actually have 3 of the 4 of my kids right now who have past their average lifespan, and, one of them I know is probably only gonna be with me another year, and so, this has been that time frame that I have been dreading with my pets since they are all very old now. So, this week, we are talking about the 10 of Wands. This is the card of burden or struggle, and, there are many beautiful recreations of this RWS image out there, but I didn't pull any of those out of my collection as often I have done lately. I've only pulled those cards which are unique and different in some way to kind of give us new ideas and whatnot on those. Before we hop into the card, I do want to ask you guys something. For those of you who wear glasses, how do you avoid alien eyes? I've tried everything and, even, changing the direction I'm looking in and all of that good stuff. I feel like perhaps the arms on the lights are not long enough so that they're out of the frame of where you're looking, but it is what it is. So let me know your thoughts. Do you get rid of your alien eyes if you wear glasses? Yeah, there we go. Alien eyes. Welcome, Amy from Strength Reverse. So glad to have you here. Thank you again for being with us last week as we talked about the dreaded Three of Swords. And glad you could be here for this. So, while I am here sharing some of my favorite Ten of Wands, if you guys have favorites in your collection, why don't you just share those with me? And we can chat about those as well. So the first one I have is from the Modern Love Tarot. She is holding 10 sticks of some kind for some reason. But the big thing in this card that you'll see is how overscheduled she is. I mean, look at all of those calendars there. I mean, just so much responsibility going on, trying to get it all organized. Very much the energy of this card, taking on one too many things, whether it's things that you've brought upon yourself or someone else has brought upon you. This is the This Might Hurt Tarot. Definitely want you to remember this card as we are talking today and we get towards the end where I talk about my own card because it is very much reminiscent of the scene that I depicted from my personal life. Um, the Pocket of Pierce took a little bit of a different approach. This is a singer, songwriter, poet that basically has one too many microphones going on, right? One too many. Uh, 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 yeah, just one too many things going on. Trying to think of a phrase that's very common that I know in the back of my head, and I could have said, um, but I'm live, so why not? Forget it. Obviously, some ones they take on the idea of candles, and in this particular one, um, they put all the candles on the back, kind of overwhelming the person. A beautiful card from the Numinous Tarot. In the Lightseers Tarot, there's the addition of the Beast of Burden, which also appears in the early versions of the Spirit Keepers Tarot. The ox or bull pulling or carrying the load, but this idea of still taking everything on and trying to move forward. I love the Thoth Ten of Swords. This is not going to be as beautiful as the other one I'm gonna show you, but this idea, there's just so much fire going on that there's lightning, and this is the Lost Hollow Tarot. I do love this depiction. It does very much look like oppression, a lot going on, especially that lightning just really makes that card, like, that's kinda, to me, the ultimate depiction of too much fire energy is lightning. And see, I told you guys, Pogi is like really eager to be close to me. Like he's laying on top of me, which he never does. Hence things shaking because he's getting between me and the computer. This is from the Urban Tarot, which I just love this deck. And you'll see on the back of the orange jumpsuit there, the original depiction of the Thoth, 10 of Wands, and this is basically someone who is being incarcerated. Obviously, um, taken on one too many things and gotten in trouble for it, um, but possibly also being wrongfully accused. It's this idea of oppression, the idea that we probably over police certain people. So, whether it's things that people apply to us or that we apply to ourselves, there's just too much going on. Um, Amy says that the Ten of Wands is a bit devilish. It's about being controlled or an energy drain, tied down, and that's certainly one approach. We're going to talk about another approach in just a moment. Um, that has come up for me this week, as often happens when I'm studying the cards. I think that my original deck, which I'm using to pull from, has it in for me because it's just been so relating the cards to my personal life of late. Um, Here is the Mystic Garbage Tarot. This is a deck that I don't read with publicly a lot, but that I do love the energy of. The art style I love. Um, if there's anything I would change about it, it would be how she did the numbers on the cards. She used Roman numerals on every card, and I really feel like it's easier when you're reading or you're looking through the cards for something if the Roman numerals are on like the major arcana and regular Arabic numbers are on the minor arcana. But that's just me personally. Um, Not everybody would agree with that. But this idea of oppression or of a burden, at the very least, is unique in the decks that I have. And, for many people, pregnancy is a tough time, right? There is just a lot of stress on the body. Um, it can be overwhelming. And even though it's something that you wanted. And that's an idea that came up in my reading, and it's really related to my life personally, is that sometimes this burden is this responsibility that's on us is a result of our own actions. Now I have two animals in my lap. This is just not going well today, is it? Sugar. Oh my goodness. Um, so I have too much of a burden with cats right now, right? Going on. And so we can take on too much ourselves, and then it even though it's something we want, that success that we've built up from our interest and inspiration and all, it kind of comes together to like make us feel overwhelmed once we're getting there, right? When we're on the verge of that success. And so for me, like right now, I have these three courses that I've been working on studying, and I'm working on this project, and then I also have another project that I haven't told you guys about yet, because I don't know if I should, because but it's due in about 3 weeks, and I'm not as far along in it as I would like to be. I hopefully will be able to just set things aside and work on that project solely this week so that I get a rough draft done. But my person contacted me this week asking about it, and I haven't figured out how to respond and say, yeah, it's all in my brain. About that. So yeah, so it could be taking on one too many things, but it also could simply be the result of the stress from finally getting near your goal, right? I mean, feeling like everything is going crazy, just because everything is happening at once. Um, and obviously, yes, it definitely could be about saying no to something, to make things flow more smoothly. I seriously considered this week not doing a card because of the other project that's coming due, and they're not going to leave me alone. I am just burdened with animals today on my life. Um, I have one more card that I want to show you, which is another way of viewing this card, and it also embraces that idea of taking on something that we want. In this case, the hero. He is pulling people from battle who have been injured, trying to get them to safety, but struggling to do so. Right? I mean, you can only carry so much weight. Even under the best of circumstances and with the best of attention, like Amy said, sometimes you have to let go of something to get back to that point of enjoyment and whatnot in your journey. So this card the is sorry, Saturn and Sagittarius, and Saturn is that card of boundaries, right, or limitations, or that energy. Sorry, and Sagittarius being all about movement and energy and progress. And so when we limit that, and it can be, we could self limit it, like in this picture, perhaps we're just taking the wrong approach to carrying these things. Or, you know, um, the limits could have been placed upon us by someone else. And I'm going to talk about that when I look at my card in just a moment, because that's definitely the energy I was going for in mine is someone else placing too much on us. Um, in the Tree of Life, this is going to be in Malkut, which is that kingdom, the very earthy Sephiroth, and in the world of Atzulat, which is our fire world. And so this is where our basically the reality of what we want and our dreams are beginning to happen. And sometimes when that does occur, it can be overwhelming, because we want to be successful, but then success breeds more responsibility, right? Uh, Traditionally. And so, one of the things that can come up here is if when we see this card is the need for perseverance or that final push to get through and finally succeed at these things that we've had going on. Um, but alternately, like Amy said, it could also be that we need to drop something in order to succeed at other things. Um, and the other thing too that we need to consider in that case is, did we take these on ourselves or did someone else place these upon ourselves? Because for me, that really makes that determination, right? The fact that I took on all of these projects that are coming to a head here, um, means that I just need to push through and I need to get them done because I committed to them, not someone else. Now, if someone else had committed me to these things, I probably would drop one of them and say, "Sorry, I can't do it for you." You know, you know, that's just one too many things you're asking of me. So this is again the Lord of Oppression in the Golden Dawn, and And so we often see people carrying too heavy a load, with too many things going on. Some of the things in this card, which I never really thought about, that came up was this house. So the house is your place of security, and that's where you're trying to get. That is your goal. But you've just got way too much to take along the way to get there, and you're not making the best choices about how to manage it, right? So maybe this is telling you it's time to get organized, to be more efficient in the way that you're handling this burden, right? I mean, when I look at this picture, my first thought is, okay, dude, you need to stand upright and put them over your shoulder. The way you're carrying them, you have no control over them at all, right? If they were all bundled together in one bundle over your shoulder, you'd have a much easier time than with them all spread out like that. And that comes from working in the gladiola fields when I was a kid, or teenager. And we would have to carry, we would cut 10 at a time, rubber band them together, and then someone would have to come and pick up 10 bundles of gladiolas to put in a bucket to put on the truck. And that's probably an image that I could have used, though I didn't. It didn't come to my mind at the time. But you had to hold those things tightly in a bundle, otherwise they would just like flop all over the place, right? Um, as things do. Um, so we've talked a little bit about the oppression or the responsibility that comes with success, and we've talked about burden. Sometimes these are obligations. It can be hard labor, like I was just talking about, working in a field. It could be as as little as being disorganized and just needing to get things under control. Um, and lots of good comments coming in from everyone. Um, in reverse, this is one of those cards that could have several different meanings depending on the cards around it and what you're reading about. It could be that you have a martyr complex. You're acting like things are more difficult than they are. It could be that the burden has been lifted, that you were struggling, but now things are improving. Which is something that I find with a lot of these heavier, more difficult cards is that when they're in reverse, it could mean things are improving, but it also could mean that things are getting much worse. And and so it could represent giving up, just deciding, I'm dropping them, I'm done. I'm not going to do this. And believe me, that crossed my mind when I got the email. I'm like, well, maybe I should just say, yeah, I'm not going to get this done. But my goal always was to do it this next week. And so one way or the other, I'm going to do this next week, um, and knock it out. So obviously, giving up an option when you see this card in reverse. And it could also just be collapsing under the pressure. So, let's look at the card that I created. I have several different versions. I'm still playing with some ideas for it. Um, the idea here was the first thing that came to my mind when I thought about a burden and about being having one too many things going on was I always struggled with liking Thanksgiving and Christmas as a kid because I knew it meant hard labor. So my dad always took the days where he was at home with us and there was not really anywhere to go or anything to do, and we had to be at home for whatever reason, like Thanksgiving or Christmas. And once we did those celebrations, he made us cut trees down on our property, right? And so he would cut the tree down and he'd saw off the limbs and he'd cut up the logs. And then my brother and I would have to then take all of the limbs to the fire, and we would have to take all of the wood and stack it up for the so it could season for the next year's fires and that kind of thing. And it was always, I always felt like they put one too many logs in my arms and I could hardly walk and to get across the yard to the pile. And, um, and so it, that's the first thing that came to my mind when I thought about a burden or being overwhelmed was having to spend the afternoons after we opened our Christmas presents or we had our Thanksgiving dinner carrying wood all day and having sap all over me and splinters and sweating and cold at the same time because we were doing this in the winter and just very frustrating for me as a kid, right? Who wanted to actually goof off on my winter vacation, right? Um, but I guess another approach that I could have taken with this would have been working in the gladiola fields. And I might explore that as I go back and revisit these cards. Because while that was also a very physical, hard labor kind of work where, my hands were often stained green from the plants and they were often had cuts where I accidentally missed when I was cutting stuff, and that kind of thing. And so um, it would be a very different approach. But uh, some of the things that I did in here, that house is actually the same one I've been using in the Ten of Pentacles and in the Ace of Wands. So there is a connection there with other cards in the deck. Um, there are 10 pine trees. There are also 10 pine fronds there, as well as 10 pieces of lumber that the child is carrying. Though you probably can't count all of these things because some of them are hidden. And so I played with the sizing. Like I couldn't decide. I wanted it to be obvious this was a small person, not a adult. But I didn't want to. At the first one, to me, it looked like it was so small that the focus was no longer on this person with the burden. So right now, I'm leaning towards that third one. We'll see if that's where I stick or if I move to the Gladiola version, of the card. I feel like the shape still gives that idea of a young person, like maybe a preteen, early teenager. Um, I did think for a moment, because this is our fire suit, about putting the actual bonfire over here in this area, where, we've been stacking up the limbs to burn them. And I may go back and do that as I often do, update them. Um, oh, here we go. The holiday is a perfect example of taking on too much. So yeah, yeah. So placing a burden upon ourselves, whether it's over decorating or cooking too much or having to have the perfect gift for everybody or whatever the case of may be. Definitely, so true, Amy. So true. So that is my chat of the Ten of Wands. I will say this is much more fun when I have others on with me to do the sharing. And so if you want to come on, let me know. Each week I pull the card, which I'm about to do for you, and then we can both look at cards in our deck that we find appealing, and we can talk about the meaning together. That was so much fun with both Amy and Gerald, and I look forward to having other people to do that as well. So this next week, the card which I pulled right before we came on live was this one. And I've kind of been sort of dreading this one because I don't think I can find the imagery to do what I want to do with it. You'll see here that I already have a whole page full of notes about this card. It was one of the early cards that I did in my brain, and that I studied. And so, and you'll even see I have artwork, which I'm not going to show you the specifics of yet, that I have been drawing up for it for almost a decade. Um, and that is the Fool. And so, and I kind of feel like I'm being a little foolish this week with all that I've got going on and I need to accomplish. So definitely a little bit of a risky situation right now. I beginning so many things at once the beginning of the year, but we'll get there. So, if anybody out there watching or live right now wants to talk about this card next Sunday, let me know. This week, I am having Joanne Worthington on. Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to talk about her deck, the In Between Tarot. So please do join us. She was with me when I had a conversation with another deck creator, and we got to chatting. And she's very excited about coming on and talking about her deck and her journey with the tarot. And I'm so looking forward to that. Hope you'll be able to join us. Until next time, everyone, good journeys.